Hi again, I'm Bret Manasseh, a 20-year psychotherapist and graduate school counseling professor. Welcome to Dr. Bret's office. This is a place for new counselors, experienced counselors, and even if you're not a counselor, really anybody who's interested in mental health is welcome to come here and bounce some questions off an experienced therapist and professor of counseling. This time it comes from a counseling graduate student who says, "Dear Dr. Bret, I've heard that new counselors should not go into private practice right away, that everyone should be in an agency setting first. I felt like there's a negative judgment on new counselors opening a private practice right out of grad school and making the choice to not take insurance. That almost feels like people expect new counselors to be martyrs in a way. I have more life experience than a typical grad student might have. Counseling is a mid-career change for me. I've been a business manager for many years and have an entrepreneurial mindset, so I think I could start my own practice. But I'm curious as to your thoughts about this." Well, there are pros and cons to everything. You sound like you really want to start your own practice when you graduate, and I certainly want to encourage you to follow your dream. The pros are you can be your own boss, you can choose when, where, and how much you want to work, you can see the clients you think you can help and refer out the ones you don't. If you don't take insurance, you can set the rates that you want to set, and you'd have the flexibility, especially if you wanted to see clients while juggling several other areas of your life, like raising kids or caring for your folks, being involved in church or volunteer or community projects. Then starting a private practice once you graduate might be a perfect option for you. Although, there are tons of benefits to not starting a private practice right away. Starting a private practice is hard, and even if you don't mind hard work, it can take a long time to get it going. In my experience, people who come out of school and try to charge $100, $150 an hour don't have a lot of clients right away. Literally, it can take several months just to get 2 or 3 regular clients each week. It can take you a year or more to build up the steady clientele that you need to sustain yourself. That's because the first thing that almost every potential client asks when they're looking for a counselor is, do they take my insurance? But as an LPC associate, you can't bill insurance companies directly, even if you wanted to. You're not limited to making whatever the insurance companies are willing to pay you, but at the same time, there goes your biggest source of client referrals. You can absolutely market yourself in other ways, but the downside to that is that the people who can afford to pay $100, $150 or more an hour are probably looking for someone with more experience than an LPC associate. It's not an insult, it's just the way it is. And in those first few years out of grad school, that's when you've got to earn the 3,000 hours of clinical supervised experience to get fully licensed. So it will probably take you a year or 2 longer to get that license if you start out in private practice. Here's another option. Instead of starting your own practice, you could join an existing practice. You wouldn't be starting completely from scratch, so instead of 1 to 2 years to build up a clientele, it might only take you 6 to 12 months. But you'd need to budget for the first 30 to 40% of your earnings to go to the practice, then about 20% more to go to self-employment taxes. So even if you bill $100 an hour at an existing practice, you'd probably net only about $55 an hour. And that's only for the hours that a client actually shows up. If you have 6 clients scheduled that day, but only 3 actually show up, you net only about $160 for that day of counseling. To account for no-shows, some counselors charge no-show fees. I do myself. But that can really turn off a client, and they might stop seeing you if you try to charge them for a no-show. And even if you charge a no-show fee, how are you going to collect it? The only leverage you have is to stop seeing them until their fees are paid, or send them to a collection agency, both of which can feel really gross to us genuine, warm, and empathic counselors, right? So just expect that most no-show fees you charge won't ever get collected. I'm not trying to discourage you. I just want you to have the facts about being in private practice right out of grad school. None of this might matter to you, though, especially if you don't have to have a steady income right away. If you can afford to grow your business slowly, and if you're okay taking 3 to 5 years to get your full unrestricted counseling license, then go for it. Especially, like I said, if you want the flexibility to juggle several life priorities at once, but you want to keep a hand in the counseling world, then starting or joining a private practice right out of grad school might be perfect for you. But there are lots of other reasons that you might benefit from not starting out in a private practice right away. One of my rules of thumb is you don't learn to be a therapist in grad school. You learn to be a therapist by being a therapist. And the first few years after grad school are really the most important parts of your growth. And if you do it all by yourself, it's lonely. Even at an existing practice, it's not especially common for the therapists to get together with each other. You know, life happens and you end up coming and going, and you don't get that collegial feeling that you might hope for. I'm telling you all this from my own experience because that's what I tried to do when I got out of grad school. I didn't start my own practice. I joined an existing practice. It was satisfying, but I wasn't making much money, and I was earning my hours pretty slowly. And after about a year, I started thinking, you know, I really should get a real job. That's when I went to work at a Dallas hospital with a large psychiatric unit. I was the chemical dependency intensive outpatient group therapist, making $30 an hour. Which doesn't sound like much, but it was $30 an hour, guaranteed, 40 hours a week. And when it was group counseling, if even one group member showed up, it counted as a direct hour toward my license. When groups weren't in session, I met with folks on the inpatient unit, the eating disorder unit, and I learned so much from all these people. That's probably the biggest benefit I got. I learned not just from the wide variety of patients, but from a whole group of other professionals. Because in a psych hospital or a larger clinical agency, there are counselors, yes, and you can learn from other counselors, but there are nurses, nurse practitioners, physicians, social workers, recreation therapists, insurance specialists, and they all get together as a treatment team several times a week and discuss all the patients in the hospital. I learned things at those treatment team meetings I'd never have learned anywhere else, things I couldn't possibly have paid someone to teach me. That's how it finally made sense to me. I'm not paying a grad school to teach me anymore. I'm getting paid for my postgraduate education. Plus, I made great networking connections and I got my hours way faster. Yes, they worked me to death, 10 or 12 hours a day sometimes, and a lot of people can only hack it in a high-intensity acuity place like a hospital or an outpatient clinic like that for maybe a year or a year and a half. But at that point, you will have gotten all of your hours, and then you don't need to work at a site like that anymore. So even though they're working you to death, and you might feel like a martyr, try to think of it as earning your stripes, cutting your teeth, you know, whatever metaphor you want to use. That is the most critical part of your learning to be a therapist. And I think you'd be shortchanging yourself if you tried to skip over that and go straight into a private practice, whether you started your own practice or whether you joined an existing practice. So, big picture, starting out in a private practice is viable, especially if flexibility is more important to you than having a steady income or getting your license quickly. But new counselors get a more stable income, get licensed faster, and tend to learn a lot more as part of a multidisciplinary treatment team at an agency, an outpatient clinical group practice, or a hospital. I trust you to assess your needs and goals and make the best decision for yourself. And if private practice is what ends up working best for you when you graduate, I am confident you can make it work. Whether you started a private practice or not, I hope this discussion helped you. If you have a question you want to run by me, whether you're a new counselor, an experienced counselor, or just someone interested in mental health, shoot me an email at DrBretsMailbag@gmail.com. Check out some of my other talks on this channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, leave your comments below, and I hope to see you again real soon here in Dr. Bret's office.